The Supreme Court set to hand down some more opinions on Monday morning. There are several key rulings we are waiting on before they end their term in just a couple of weeks. For some of the cases that we are going to talk about, we're joined now by Elizabeth Wydra from the Constitutional Accountability Center and Carrie Severino from the Judicial Crisis Network. Two of our favorite SCOTUS watchers. Great to have both of you here today.
Always great to be here.
Okay, so Monday, we never know what we're going to get, but we're waiting. One of the biggest cases, the last one they heard argued, was the travel ban. Carrie, what are you watching for?
Yeah, the travel ban is going to be a big one. One that I'm curious about, just finally to get it off the table, is Janus case. That was public employee unions, and it was set to be practically decided right when Justice Scalia died in 2016. It seemed clear they were going to overrule a 47-year-old case that said that public employees could be forced to subsidize unions, and they said this is violating our First Amendment rights because this is basically political speech. And so I think the court, it looks like, will finally get around to overruling that case and kind of finish the last work of the 2016 cases.
And if I'm right about that, is that one of the cases where Justice Gorsuch, the newest member of the bench, didn't say anything?
Yeah.
He made zero comments, and everybody, of course, is watching him. But again, this is a public school teacher in California who says he doesn't want to have to pay towards the union dues or fees because he may not always agree with their political activities and those kinds of things. But Elizabeth, the courts have always been worried, too, about free riders or people who get the benefits of being in the union even though they don't pay into it.
Right, exactly. So the existing system now, you don't have to join a union. You don't have to subsidize the political activities, the legislative lobbying, et cetera. But you do have to pay a fair share fee that covers collective bargaining that benefits everyone, whether it's workplace safety, making sure that there's not wage theft, that there are fair pay conditions. So that's really what a lot of the states are fighting to keep. And in fact, my organization, CAC, filed a brief on behalf of Republican state legislators who say, look, this is an issue of federalism. It's really our decision how to interact with our public sector employees.
All right, so we're going to watch for that one. Also, I don't know about you ladies, but I like to internet shop. In fact, that's almost how I do all of my shopping, even for groceries, for clothes, for anything. It's so easy, but there's a big case out there involving Wayfair, a very popular home goods site, where we're going to find out something potentially about internet taxes, which would impact just about everybody.
Yeah, and this is a huge case because it has to do with whether states can charge their state taxes to those companies. You know, Amazon tends to often have to pay in-state taxes, but you have groups like Wayfair, or there's a lot of other companies that don't. And this is something also that Justice Gorsuch had written on even before he was on the court, suggesting that there were some issues with the way that we're analyzing. So it's going to be really interesting because it could have a huge impact. And I think that's what the justices are scared of, is like they don't really, they're hoping to decide a case, a point of law, but not to overhaul an entire industry. It's just, you know, you're at the Supreme Court. Sometimes the decisions have huge impacts.
Well, my husband is hoping it might slow down my internet shopping. Elizabeth, it's going to happen regardless of the outcome of the case. But what other ones are you watching for? I feel like we have several. I mean, there's also the one about police using cell tower information to track people without getting a warrant, the Carpenter case.
Right, which is an important case of privacy in the digital age, whether or not you need a warrant before using that cell phone tower data that can pinpoint your location. But I think that the two most important cases that I'm looking for are the partisan gerrymandering cases, which are about whether or not you can draw districts such that you're so likely to get a person elected of a particular party, basically allowing politicians to choose their voters rather than the other way around. And of course, as you mentioned, the Trump Muslim travel ban case. I think we really in this moment are particularly focused on this. You know, we're dealing with the horror we see every day of the Trump administration's policy of tearing families apart at the border. And so everyone is going to be looking very closely to see whether or not the Supreme Court strikes this down as being the unconstitutional and unlawful program that it is, that harms families, refugees, and people wanting to come here to build a better life for themselves.
And you know, of course, the White House does not call it a Muslim ban. Venezuela, North Korea, there were other countries that have been involved, and it doesn't target the most populous Muslim countries, but there are certainly some countries on this list that we have concerns about whether we can verify data before people can come in for immigration. This is now Travel Ban 3.0. This is the third version, and it has a lot to say about executive power, what the court decides.
Yeah, and I think when we look at what the court has said about the previous versions, there's no question in my mind that the court is going to find this absolutely constitutional because this is well, look, even the previous versions, which didn't have as much analysis gone into it yet, the government hadn't made the analysis yet of the ability of those countries to guarantee that these people who are who they say they are. The court looked like they were ready, even many of the liberal justices, to uphold those ones. The president has a huge amount of authority when it comes to national security, and that's simply what's the case here. So
yeah,
I know there's.
I don't think the justices were really on. You know, he has authority, but it's cabined by the Constitution and other statutes.
I think in this case it's pretty clear.
One thing we can all agree on: we love our Constitution.
Yes.
Amen.
All right,
true.
we'll leave it there. Okay, Elizabeth Wycheck, Carrie Severino. I'll see you at the court on Monday.